I hesitated for another reason. For 40 years, I have been intimately associated with the dual struggle taking place in India. There has been a struggle with the West in two phases, political and religious. India wanted political freedom, the right to make its own mistakes and to shape its own destiny. And then India wanted its soul to be its own, not dominated and molded by a seemingly foreign faith. There were many things in Hinduism that were unsatisfactory to modern Hindu minds, but at least it belonged to India, and they would defend it as such. They have defended it, the good and bad. Mahatma Gandhi was the spearhead of that political religious battle. He was the voice. I found myself very early taking sides with him in the political struggle. For years I was discreet enough to be able to stay in India during the years of struggle for independence. I went to Sir James Crerar, the Home Member, the head of the police of India, at the height of the struggle, and told him my position. I believe in the moral right of India to independence and am sympathetic toward the national leaders and their aims. But I give you my word of honor that I am not taking part in politics as such. I was allowed to stay. But later, when the war came on, I felt I should throw aside a cramping discretion and expose my heart. I did so in many addresses in the West. For this, I was refused a visa when I wanted to return to India in 1944. When I applied for a visa, I said, I give my word of honor that I will not take part in politics, but I want the right, when asked, to say that I believe in the moral right of India to self-government. Would I be allowed that freedom? It was a privilege to be kept out of India on that issue. I believed fundamentally in the method and motive of the struggle for political independence. But the religious struggle with the West came home even closer to me. I was an evangelist in the midst of an India fighting with all its resources for freedom. What I presented seemed to be bound up with Western domination, the religious side of imperialism. I tried to present a disentangled Christ standing in his own right, apart from any mediation through the West. I tried to say that we of East and West stood in the same deep need of Christ. My present plan of dividing my time equally between India and America, 6 months in each, is a practical application of my belief in our common need. I look on them both as mission fields. But no matter how much we tried to clarify our position and present a disentangled Christ, the clash was there. And Mahatma Gandhi voiced the protest. The pages of Young India were the debating ground. Other papers echoed the Mahatma and reinforced his arguments and protests with their own. In my public meetings, these things would come to the surface at question time, sometimes in bitter form. The center of that clash was this. Since there was no communal representation in India, representation in government according to the numbers in the religious community, religious conversion could be used to build up one's own communal power and, incidentally, to undermine the political power of the other community, which meant that the political power of the Hindus was jeopardized by conversions, especially mass conversions. For 30 years, I lived at the nerve center of that clash. It has left scars on me. Again and again, I found myself disagreeing with the Mahatma in his positions. For 10 days, he and I opened our hearts to each other in the early morning hours of the Sabarmati ashram. There were deep disagreements, and yet something held me to him amid those disagreements. I felt that he had a way of coming out on the right side of things, even when the intellectual process by which he arrived at that end could not be followed by me. He had a way of being right, even when I thought he was wrong. His spirit transcended the mental processes and came out on the right side of things. Acharya Kripalani, then president of the Indian National Congress, put it this way to me one day: "The Mahatma is more right when he is wrong than we are when we are right." That was a deep insight and is the key to the understanding of his character. His spirit and magnificent intention carried him past mental detours and brought him almost unerringly to his goal. His spirit was so great that it could absorb mental limitations and make something great, even out of them. Many of us are correct in our little correctness and are small in the process, but the Mahatma was incorrect in many things, and yet correct in the sum total, and big in the very inconsistencies. In the end, he